Last weekend, Barca faced off against Valencia, and it felt like an important indicator of the Catalan squad depth. With 4 first-choice players out, we saw a heavily rotated team put in a pretty inconsistent performance. Now, you may remember at the start of this season, Xavi said he wanted 2 world-class players in every position, and at the moment it doesn't really feel as though that's been accomplished. Throughout my videos here, we've already seen a couple of roles that really need reinforcement. The pivot, for example, with Busquets aging and any injury leaving the midfield completely unbalanced, so that would be a priority for me. There's also the right interior role, which is only sufficiently played by Pedri, as we saw last video. Again, an injury leaves the squad without a reliable attacking midfielder. And over the next couple of videos, we're going to talk about 2 more roles that I think should be priorities for Barca in the summer, and what kind of players I'd be looking for. So this first one will focus on the right back position, and the next one will move further up the pitch. So if you enjoy this one, consider giving it a like, and let's start talking about strengthening this Barcelona squad. For a while, it looked like Barca had solved their right back crisis through the use of Jules Koundé. He's now part of what Barca fans are calling back, Balde, Araujo, Christensen, Koundé, which as a back line has only conceded a grand total of 3 goals together, and one of those was an own goal. However, in recent games, certainly against Man United and now also against Valencia, Koundé at right back has started to look a little less comfortable, to the point that it's actually costing the team. So is it time to admit that the experiment hasn't really worked, and should Barca be looking to invest big into this position in the summer? Well, I have to say at the start of the season, I was one of the big advocates of playing Koundé at right back, and Xavi obviously agreed, because on paper it does make a lot of sense. In both of Barca's possession shapes, 2-3-5 or 3-2-5, the right back doesn't have much of an offensive role. In this example, it's a 3-2-5, and Koundé is behind the ball, part of Barca's 5-man rest defence, which basically just means the structure that Xavi has put in place to stop counter-attacks when Barca lose the ball. The same goes for the 2-3-5. Once Barca have settled possession in the opposition half, the right back starts to drift inside, so that when there's a turnover, they're better positioned to press the ball. Therefore, to have someone like Koundé, who's a natural ball winner, but who's also athletic enough to cover space, makes perfect sense. You also get the benefit that in the 3-2-5, the right back on paper essentially becomes a right centre back. That should really suit Koundé on the ball, especially because those wide centre backs do have license to carry the ball forward, something he was naturally inclined to do even in his Sevilla days. So this all sounds like the perfect role for Koundé, and yet it's not really working out. So why is that? Well, the problems begin not when Barca are in the final third, but when they're actually building up. In both shapes, Barca's first phase of build-up looks like this. Sometimes it's a single pivot, sometimes a double pivot, but the fullbacks are always wide. That's to make the pitch as big as possible and make it harder for opponents to cover the ground in the press. And here is where things start to look shaky for Koundé, especially against high-pressing teams, because unfortunately, he just isn't as comfortable as I expected receiving and distributing from the touchline, and that results in a fair amount of turnovers. In that second leg against Man United, for example, he lost possession 24 times, and against Valencia at the weekend, he lost the ball 19 times, which is hugely damaging to Barca's chances of controlling football matches, something we've been talking about a lot recently. You have to remember as well that the fullback is very often the free man when you are getting pressed, so if this player isn't comfortable with that responsibility, it really weakens your build-up. Balde's proficiency at this is a major reason he's broken into the side. However, there are a couple of big caveats to all of this. Firstly, I don't think it's a coincidence that Koundé's worst right-back performances have come without Pedri in the team. It's actually been Sergio Roberto or Franck Kessié next to him as the right interior. Now, Pedri will pretty much always provide a reliable passing option to receive the ball from the right back, showing for it and happy to receive under pressure. Sergio Roberto and Kessié, however, are much less comfortable, so they'd rather make a forward run than to show to feet, which more than once has led to a breakdown in possession with Koundé. And the second thing which goes against him right now is the prolonged inclusion of Rafinha on the right wing. Now, Rafinha is a player that fascinates me. I've already done one video on him, and I'm tempted to do another one based on what we've seen over the past few weeks. But one thing's for sure, he's much less effective in those 1v1 situations than his counterpart Ousmane Dembélé. What that means is Rafinha is going to check back inside much more often, and therefore needs other players to combine with, including the fullback. Whether that's from an underlapping run or an overlapping run, Koundé isn't really equipped to make use of either option. Rafinha is essentially more high maintenance than Dembele, and therefore would prefer a more versatile fullback around him, which actually hurts both of these players. All that is to say, I don't think these last few games are a fair representation of Koundé's potential at right back. The circumstances haven't been favourable to his profile, and with Pedri and Dembele in the team, he'd be much more comfortable and still, I think, a decent option. However, should Barca still sign another right back? Absolutely yes. And ideally one who can do the things that Koundé can't. That means a balanced profile who's still got the defensive attributes to play the inverted right back role, but who's also going to improve Barca's possession. If they can give more in the final third paired with Rafinha too, that's a bonus. Of all the names that are being thrown around, I must admit I do like the idea of Juan Foyth. I think he represents a nice balance of those attributes, especially when it comes to the comfort and ball retention on the right touchline. For me, this is absolutely key, because it's the thing that will take this team to another level in possession, especially against aggressive opponents. Koundé for me would still be a good backup option, the second choice right back perhaps, but he'd mainly be focused on competing for the centre back spot, where to be fair I think he is much more comfortable. So that's my take on Barca's right back situation. I wanted to keep these couple of episodes short and sweet, so let me know how much of a priority this role should be in the summer. Would you sign Foyth or someone else entirely? I'll be back soon with the second part of this, focusing on a different position, so I hope to see you then. Thanks for all the support guys, and for now, take care.